Alright, let's go! I'm pretty sure I've done that one before. We're talking about foreign affairs. That's the president's job. All foreign affairs is the president's job. Appointing people, not war. We'll talk about war in a minute, but saying what countries we like, saying what countries we don't like, saying that's a country, that's not a country. That's the president. Agreeing vague executive agreements, right? So the president can make executive agreements, which is we agree to do thing, or we agree that this is good policy, or whatever. He can make those agreements. Congress can nullify those because they're kind of legislative. But remember, Congress can only do so through a bill, which the president has to sign, or two-thirds majority, right? But I guess technically he has to get it, veto it, and send it back. Either way. So you guys know how this works. I'm not going to sit here and explain the three branches of government like I'm 8th grade civics class. So the president has foreign affairs power. Now, when it comes to treaties, which can have the force of can have the full force of law, those can only be made with the advice and consent of the Senate, and they can only have force of law if given that by Congress. Otherwise, they don't have force of law. I believe the Senate can give them force of law alone. But so that to have the force of law, that's called being a self-executing treaty, or you can give force of law just by passing it as a bill. But say the treaty itself has, it's an enforceable treaty. There you go. Sorry, that wasn't great, but so treaties are controlled by the Senate and the president, but pretty much all of their foreign affairs are under the authority of the president. I want to see if I missed anything important. State laws that conflict with treaties are invalid. Federal law and treaties last in time controls. So, as with most federal law, if you have multiple valid proclamations on something, the most recent proclamation controls unless those proclamations are issued by different bodies. Treaties, even though they're not touched by the House, are considered to be on par with statute. Which also, I'm going to talk about this really quick because I think it's important for people to understand on a political level. You ever seen a map of the treaty on food, the UN treaty on food, and every country but us has signed it? We don't sign treaties because it's a hassle. Most other countries, they can sign treaties executively without having to deal with the Senate. Even more importantly, they can sign treaties, and those treaties are actually lower than federal law. Our treaties trump all state law forever and ever, and they are, very difficult to mess with because federal law, if you haven't noticed, doesn't change anymore. It doesn't change. It's been set in stone, and it will be set in stone until we can elect a Senate with, 60 members, or somebody kills the goddamn filibuster. Anyway, my opinions on the filibuster aside, look, if it was 52, I'd get it, but 60? You're letting 20 states hold the country hostage. That's not okay. Anyway, sorry. Back to foreign affairs. So yes, that's why the U.S. generally speaking doesn't ratify treaties, is because they're a hassle, they have major implications, and also because Republicans don't like them. Oops. You should also note that, UN treaty names are not regulated by a body. And you might say, what does that mean? Okay, so you know how sometimes Congress will pass a bill and it'll be the Baby Act, and it'll be about legalizing domestic crack sales or something. It's the same thing. Okay. So many UN treaties and proclamations are whack. Now, I don't mean to be, an American supremacist here, but if you ever look at a map of a treaty and it's signed by 30 countries in Africa and Russia, it's not a good treaty. Okay? Not to be rude, but there are literally good guys in modern geopolitics, and Russia ain't one of them. And if Russia's the major signatory to a treaty from the UN, it's nonsense, okay? And this happens all the time, and I see all these maps of the UN Food Security Treaty is only signed by these 40 countries in Africa, Russia, and Saudi Arabia. Who's the good guys now? And it's did you read the treaty? You read the title and went, that's abhorrent. You don't know what the treaty is? Go read the treaty. Don't read UN treaties, they're meaningless. That's the other thing, is that UN proclamations are generally meaningless. And also, we're the ones who fund the UN. We pay for most of that. Makes me mad sometimes. People try to use the UN as evidence of anything. UN is dumb. As an avid fan of the UN is dumb. I'm sorry, UN, get better. I love you in principle, but in practice, not so much.